With winter approaching, a lot of people can think that there's not much to look forward to in the garden. However, today I wanted to share with you 15 of my favourite winter interest plants that will give you a little bit of colour through the winter months and potentially maybe some scent as well and some flowers. So I thought we would start today with Cornus, one of my favourites, because the stems are just absolutely gorgeous on a winter's day. Whether you have just one individual plant or if you can have kind of them planted en masse, if you've got space for that, they just look wonderful. If you can get them where they're just kind of lit with the low winter light, they look fantastic. You get them with red or orange, or like this one here with the lovely sort of greeny yellow stems, and they just make such a nice pop of colour in your garden in winter. But they're a good all year round plant as well. So that's our first plant. And next we have the lovely Leucothoe. So this one here is an evergreen. It doesn't really need an awful lot of attention, to be honest. And what it'll do as well in the autumn and winter, it'll go really nice and bright, vivid red. You get a few different varieties, but they will all kind of go either burgundy or quite a bright red throughout the winter. So that is a really good choice. And you can even have it in a pot by the door as well. I've actually got one in a pot by my back door and it just looks lovely. It just adds a little splash of colour. And then next, we have got the classic Hellebore, or as this one's known, the Christmas rose, or Lenten Rose. So this one is a white Hellebore, but you can get Hellebores in all different shades. You can get pinks, you can get reds, deep black, you can get yellows. So at the moment we tend to have a slightly smaller selection, but going into next year we get in more of all the different shades and different colours. But this is a lovely one because with the white flowers, with the shorter days, that white just really stands out in your garden, so you can kind of enjoy your garden for a little bit longer. So that is a real favourite of mine. And then you can't have winter plants without a nice winter berry. So this is a Skimmia. You get various different types of Skimmias. Now some won't end up getting the berries, some of them will just have flowers and that's it. But this one, this is Skimmia reevesiana. This is a really good one because this will have the flowers and then the berries. Again, evergreen, and it just adds a lovely little pop of colour. Again, you could put that in a pot. You could, even if you've got quite a big pot, you could put, say, something like that and the Hellebore and something else in a pot. Or of course, you can just plant it in the ground in the garden as well. But that is a really, really lovely one. Very festive. Virginia. So these are really great as well because they have pretty kind of evergreen leaves. You'll find a few of them will kind of die off and you'll just need to tidy it every once in a while, but they're pretty much evergreen and their leaves got a beautiful rich red colour in the autumn and winter. And they'll sort of clump up, and if you kind of underplant with these, they're quite good almost as like a sort of ground cover, kind of around maybe say bigger shrubs. You also, I don't know if you can see that, but in the springtime, kind of early spring, you do get flowers as well with that. So this one here gets lovely sort of cerise pink flowers, but you can get ones with white flowers or pale pink flowers. So they're a good kind of all-rounder, and they don't mind if they're in a slightly drier spot. They can tolerate a bit of neglect, basically. But they are a really good one for winter as well. And then we've got a little bit of a collection here. Next up, I have got conifers. So they are a really good plant to have, or group of plants to have in your garden at this kind of time of year, because most of them, apart from one or two, are evergreen. I think a lot of people fell out of love with them after the sort of 70s and 80s. A lot of people did sort of rockeries and kind of gardens with conifers and heathers, but actually I think it's about time that they had a revival because they're really good doers in the garden, and you can make it really interesting if you use lots of different textures. Like you can see here as well, there's heaps of different textures, there's different colours. You've got that lovely, there's golden pines like this one. You can get lovely blues with junipers and chamaecyparis like that one. You can get really dwarf ones as well, which is good if you've not got much space. So there's a few of these, like that's actually quite a low growing one as well, that'll just sort of spread out, and then that one stays quite compact too. So you can get all different conifers for all different garden sizes and whatever the garden style that you're going for. There's a conifer, I think, to suit every situation. So yeah, I think these are a really good one for the winter as well. And you can also combine them with my next wall plants. which is heathers. So you can get winter, sort of early spring flowering heathers, these ones here. I don't know if you can see them. They combine really nicely with heathers. If you kind of underplant with the heathers round conifers, that can look really lovely, just a carpet of either pinks, white, you get sort of reds, purpley sort of pinks. And you can also get kind of different sort of colours of the actual heathers themselves as well, not just the flowers. So you can kind of really make quite an interesting carpet beneath conifers or beneath other shrubs as well. It doesn't have to just be conifers. So they are a really good pairing. Next up, we have the lovely Sarcococca. So I had to include this plant. I love this. I have actually got one, again, in a pot by my back door, and it is just lovely. In about sort of maybe late January, early February, depends on how mild it is in, year to year, but about that sort of time, January, February, all these little buds, and they open up to these lovely little white spidery kind of, they're quite sort of, you can maybe see on that picture there, but they're quite sort of small and delicate little flowers, but they pack a punch when it comes to scent. They are really strongly scented, and it's so nice to have either maybe kind of close to a doorway or a path, because obviously in the winter you're not going to maybe be spending as much time out in the garden. It's nice in the winter time to have it kind of close to a path or maybe a doorway, because you're more likely to actually smell the plant because you'll be kind of closer to it. So it's a good idea to plant it somewhere that you'll actually be able to enjoy the scent. But that is a lovely plant for some winter scent, and it's evergreen as well, so you'll have interest all round. Next up, we have got lovely winter jasmine. So this flowers from around about this sort of time of year, and then it can flower right through into about sort of January time. It has these lovely bright yellow flowers, which is exactly what you need in the winter, a little bit of cheery yellow to brighten up any dark grey day. And this will just, it's kind of almost more of a sort of climber-ish, but it doesn't get too big. So you can kind of even have that against a wall or something, or a fence, something like that. And that'll just add a real pop colour to your garden. It's not as scented as like your more summer flowering jasmines, but it's more for the colour that you grow this. But that is another real showstopper. Carrying on with a theme of yellow flowers, next up we have Mahonia. So this is Mahonia Winter Sun, but you can get various different varieties. This one's a slightly more compact one, because some Mahonia can get really quite big. This one stays a little bit more compact. It has these very spiny kind of leaves, so they are quite jabby, so you wouldn't maybe put this next to a path, or right next to a path. But it does have these gorgeous yellow flowers which flower about sort of November, December time, and they are actually scented as well. So especially if you do get a slightly milder kind of day, you'll often get the scent sort of carrying on the air. So that is another really good winter plant, and again, evergreen. So you will still, even when you don't have the flowers, you'll still have a bit of interest in the garden. And we couldn't have winter interest plants without some holly, or ilex as it's known. So I just thought I would show you different types, because you get many different varieties of holly. So you get some that are almost slightly smoother on the edge of the leaf, and then as they mature they get slightly more spikier. And then others, like these two, are obviously really quite spiky. But you do, with a lot of them, so long as they're not male, you will get little, I don't know if you can see that, little red berries as well. And obviously they're good if you like making wreaths or different Christmas kind of decorations. So once your plant gets a bit more established, you can use it for that purpose as well. But they're really good. They're good kind of protection for birds as well. They'll like kind of hop in amongst the holly trees, the berries and everything as well. So that's a really good plant for not just you and the garden, but also for the wildlife in the garden too. So that is definitely another top winter interest plant. And next up, we have got the Hellebores, or witch hazel. Now these are fantastic. I know it's probably not looking like much right now, but give it another month or two, and all these little buds will open up. You can maybe see on this card here. So I always think they kind of look like little fireworks. So they open up into these little sort of, again, sort of almost like spidery, fireworky kind of flowers. And you can get red flowers, you can get yellow, you can get orange, all quite sort of fiery colours, which I think again is really nice in the winter, just adds that sort of pop of warmth almost. A lot of them, they're usually scented to some degree, but a lot of them are actually quite strongly scented again. So this is lovely if you're just wanting to add a bit of colour, but also a bit of scent into the garden. And they do also have really good autumn colour. So just a few weeks ago, these were full of really fiery kind of coloured leaves. Depending on the variety, you can get quite red leaves, or sometimes they'll go kind of more orangey yellow. But again, I would say this is a really good all year round plant. It kind of has interest for most of the year. So this is a really good one again for winter. And now I think we will head outside. So next up, we have got a few trees. So if you're looking for something a little bit bigger for winter interest, this might be for you. So one of my top favourites for autumn as well, because it has beautiful red leaves in the autumn, but in the winter it has wonderful bark. This is Acer Fir, or the Paperbark maple. So you can maybe see here, the bark peels, and on a lovely sunny winter's day, when the low sunlight just hits through the paperbark, it's a lovely sort of goldeny, browny sort of colour, and it's really interesting. So I think this is a lovely tree. If you've got a slightly bigger space, because they can, although this isn't too big just now, they can get a good bit bigger. So you would need a decent bit of space. If you've got it, it's definitely a tree worth having in your garden, because it will give you year-round interest, but something really lovely to look at in the winter. So next up, we have this lovely birch. This is a Jack Montii. So it has this gorgeous white bark, which actually gets even more white as it ages as well. And this is a lovely multi-stem variety, but you can get single stem as well. It's really beautiful when there's not really much else going on. If you've got that as a focal point, that lovely white stems, that really can make quite a statement in your garden. I really like it if you are planting a bit of cornus around the bottom. So if you've got lovely white stems, again, say the red cornus, I think that can work really well as a combination. So this is another one of my top 15 winter plants. And so for my final plant for winter interest, still trees, we are going with this lovely cherry Prunus. So this is Cerula, and it has the gorgeous red bark, which kind of peels as well. So a bit like the Acer Fir, it has the lovely peeling bark, which again, when the sun is kind of hitting that, just streaming through the peeling bark, it does look gorgeous in the winter. It will also have good autumn colour with the leaves, and it will flower as well in the spring. So this is a really good all-around tree to have in your garden. Again, if you've got a bit more space, if you've got a really small garden, you might just do something like this, but if you've got a bit more space, this would be a lovely specimen tree to have as a real focal point in the winter. I hope that you've enjoyed my little guide to my 15 top winter plants. Of course, there's many others that can be included, so it's quite hard to narrow it down to just 15. But if you would like any